In this first set of slides, we'll discuss web fundamentals. We'll talk about the request and response cycle, which is the conversation between your browser and a remote server. We'll also talk about terminology such as local versus remote, and we'll also discuss the differences between front-end and back-end development. We'll also discuss some site organization practices that you'll be using throughout the course. First, let's talk about the request and response cycle. So let's say that you're at home on your laptop and you'd like to visit a website, howstuffworks.com. So you go up to your URL bar at the top of the browser and you type in howstuffworks.com. And what happens is your browser connects to the internet through your internet service provider, and the first computer that it talks to on the internet is your domain name server. Domain name server, otherwise known as a DNS server, is kind of like an operator on the internet. DNS servers don't really have web pages on them, but what they do is they associate a list of domain names with a particular IP address. An IP address is a set of digits that represent the location of a computer on the internet. So much in the same way that the post office uses addresses to correctly deliver mail to your house, all of the computers on the internet also have a unique address to identify them. So this first DNS server we talk to, we ask it for the IP address for the domain howstuffworks.com. But this particular DNS server, it doesn't know. So it asks another DNS server, and this DNS server does know the answer. It has that, and it tells us that the IP address is 70.42.251.42. So it sends that IP address back to the first DNS server, and the first DNS server says, great, I'll cache that. That way, in case another person asks for the IP address, it'll already know that answer now. And then it sends that IP address back to us. So now our computer can connect directly to the remote server matching that IP address. So these servers here are holding the web pages. When our browser connects to this web server, it starts a conversation back and forth between our computer and a remote computer on the internet. This conversation is made up of two parts, a request and a response. So the request is our browser requesting the home page, and the way it does that is it sends a set of HTTP headers. So these headers contain information such as what type of computer are we on, what type of browser are we using, and what type of request are we making. So in our case, we're making a HTTP GET request. We're trying to get, in this case, the index.html page, or in other words, the home page of the website. Now, the server then sends back a response. So the response also has a set of headers. Typically, it's just a status code that says, we've successfully received your request and here's the information you wanted. The more interesting part of the response, though, is the content that it sends back, such as HTML files, or it could also be some CSS code or some JavaScript code. Now, in our case, in this course, we're going to be learning to write the HTML and the CSS code that's going to be sent back from a web server to our browser to be rendered.